right, welcome to the June 13th open hearing for the Town of Stow Finance Committee. We'll get started here. So why don't we start out with the warrant articles, and since Craig, you're here, why don't we go ahead and just go ahead and start talking about that.
Okay, so we have an unforeseen or unpredictable situation at the library.
This is Article 3, right?
This is Article
Replacement.
3 that
Replacement of the Randall Library Sewage Disposal System.
that Peter was just referring to. So this all occurred. Let me just pass out this quick graphic here. Whoops. Let me see.
Do you want to keep that one, just writing on it?
No, I got one. They're all.
Thank you.
I'll let you guys grab those.
Okay, Craig, you know everybody on the committee, right?
What's it?
Do you know everybody on the committee?
Artie, right?
Atlee.
Atlee. Excuse me. I know Peter. I know you. I know Paul. I know this young lady.
And this is Tom. He's our new associate member.
Craig Meyer. So this is an as-built of the septic system at the library. All the lines represent, you can see the library right on Common Road, and then so flow comes out of the library at a septic tank next to the building, crosses under Common Road, goes over to what we call a distribution box, and then feeds off into these two fields. The unique situation here was a couple of days before Memorial Day, Bruce Fletcher was driving by Common Road and he noticed a big puddle in the middle of the common. So, sort of thinking it might have been from the rain, he investigated a little bit and found that it was not rainwater, it was effluent from the septic system. So it was like 2 days before the Memorial Day festivities, which typically take place here. So we didn't want that to impact that activity, so we got the tank pumped immediately, and we drained down the line, and we drained down the puddle in the center of the common. But that's what started this investigation on to see what was happening here. And basically we have two systems that are in place under the grass or under the common there that were built. The original one was built in 1974. It was kept in place when it failed in 1994, and the system on the right was built in 1994, and now that system has failed. So we had, roughly 20 some odd years out of one system and over 20 years out of the second system. We've been out on the common with a backhoe, digging up components here to really see what was going on. Basically, we've got roots inside the leaching pipes. We've got a distribution box that is completely disintegrated, so the pipes are just sitting in the earth. We have an old failed system that failed originally from 1974, and then we've got some problems with the 1994 system. So we did look at maybe a way to rehab these systems, go in, flush the lines, we have roots growing in the lines as well because we have trees on the common and shrubs. I'm not convinced that that's the way to do this at all, because it only buys a short amount of time, and we get no guarantees if we do that. Is it less costly? Yes. But I really don't want to go in and do something like that, backfill all this system after doing some kind of rehab, getting the grass growing, and then in 4 or 5 years have another failure. Not on my watch. So I have looked into replacing one of the systems, which will do the entire work for the library. It's basically probably 4 trenches, 50 feet long, with a new distribution box, and some grading, new septic tank near the building. I did reach out to 2 local contractors to give me pricing for this, and Peter, you're right, I did plug a number in right, this happened right before the warrant closed, and I had to put a number in, so I just had 30,000 on my mind. I got 2 quotes back from contractors. This is a Chapter 39 public works project, which would have to be under the prevailing wage rates, which are probably double what local rates are, so we are, I don't want to say stuck with that, but that's Mass General law. So the 2 quotes I have is anywhere between 35 and 43,000 to build this system. You had some engineering in there, which I have a quote from an engineer to do the survey, do the design, do the as-built, do some soil testing. That's another 5, so that gets me to 50, and that's what I'm proposing. Right now, we're pumping the tank.
Mine says 35.
Mine still says 35. Does anyone say 50?
35, okay. Yeah, it's 50.
It's 50.
Yeah.
But that's my recommendation.
That could have been for my article, 35.
Oh, okay, your article?
No, because it was 25, right, and then it was 35.
No, I'm sorry. I thought I put it in at 30, but after doing all this research and
Doesn't matter.
it is at 50, that's what my number is. We are pumping the septic tank for the library as they move along. They're continuing with their functioning, having their programs and everything else, and we're just watching the tank, the septic tank, and pumping it ahead of time so we don't have an overflow of some sort.
So I missed it. Was it you were taking both of those fields out and putting in a replacement?
Now, I'm going to abandon the one on the right. We're just going to backfill, we've got it all dug up right now. I just want to backfill that. And then I want to take this area where the 1974 system was, and we have more room on this side. We have less trees, and we have room to put a system in here. So we'll be digging this system up, digging new trenches and putting a new system to the left on the common.
The one on the right, that's underneath the memorial, isn't it?
We did find out this 1994 system was built before the expansion of the War Memorial. They had originally the memorial in the center, and I believe the other granite pieces were added, plus the concrete was added. So we have a portion of this system that's under the concrete slab for the memorial.
What about the trees that are still there, or are they at risk? Is there remove some of those?
There's a huge sycamore tree, which is right there. It's right alongside of the common road. It's right near that water hydrant. It's right there. God forbid I touch that tree, really. But our idea is we would use a 40 mil poly barrier along that side to create a barrier between the trees and the system. What happens in this particular soil, it's well-drained soil, it's sand and gravel, so it's deep to groundwater, okay? So it's probably down 10 feet to groundwater. So the tree's roots, if you put a septic system in that area, you have water, you have effluent in the ground, where do the tree roots want to go? They want to go to the closest source, and they go to the pipes, as opposed to going way down 10 feet. So that's primarily what failed this system, and then we also had root intrusion on the 1994 system. So we'll do the best we can to protect it. 40 mil poly is a heavyweight poly material. It's almost indestructible, but it's a barrier, and we can put it in vertical from the tree, and we'll try to protect the system as we can. But this way,
But you're not proposing any tree work?
no, the only thing it looks like we might have to do where the septic tank is located next to the building right here.
Yeah.
There is a very large, I'm not sure what kind of tree it is. Doug, do you know?
Maple.
It's a maple tree. The tree is literally right over the septic tank. And the septic tank is the original 1974 septic tank. As a matter of fact, it's a 1,000-gallon tank, which is undersized for today's standards. So we would like to get that old tank out. We probably have root intrusion in that tank as well. That probably will necessitate taking that maple down. There's another maple not far away, but I mean, that tree is right over the tank. Matter of fact, I'm sure the roots engulf the whole tank. So that's where we are.
Get some canned
Don't do a class sign. Any other questions?
So you've only gotten one estimate on that?
Two. I have two estimates from local contractors, and like I said, it was between 35 and 43,000.
So this is a not to exceed.
This 50 is a not to exceed.
And then there's engineering work, you said that was in addition.
I've got a quote of 5,000 on the engineering, which I've looked at, it's reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's included in the 50?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Now, the timing, we can get right to it.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to go to town meeting and hope for a positive vote. I've done a little bit of work that I'm going to pay for out of my operating budget. We had Bruce Fletcher out there with a backhoe, the highway backhoe, so there's no charge for that, but I have to pay Bruce. I can pay him out of some of my operating funds for maintenance, so I'll take care of that. Other than that, it's been Doug and I with our time, and we're here and we're doing our job. So yeah, it would be town meeting and then get started if this is a pass.
How are you funding the pumping of the tank?
How often?
How are you funding the pumping of the tank?
That's coming out of, the library has several $1,000s in their operating budget, so they've been paying for the tank pumping. I also have money in my budget and I'll help out if we have to pump it several times. Their flow from the library is, the actual flow is astonishingly low. We have water meter readings for flow from the library, and they're like under 50 gallons a day coming out of the library. But be that as it may, so the tank is not filling up real quickly, but they're about to start in their summer programs and everything where there's more activity in the library and so forth, so that'll pick up. But we're watching the tank and we're pumping it obviously before anything starts flowing down the common road, so that'll be the last thing.
Yes.
So is the size set? I mean, you said it's a five pipe or 4 pipe you're gonna put in?
The tank,
Or no, the field, the leach field?
the field, I did a preliminary estimate on the size of the field, kind of based on the perk rate, and talking with the engineer, we think it's probably 4 trenches, 50 feet long, with a new distribution box, maybe some venting, and the 40 mil poly barrier.
Because that's what's there already, right? 40-foot long?
They're less than that, they're actually,
Can't see it's cut off.
Yeah, you got 40 on the 94
Yeah.
section.
It just sounded like a very small water flow for such a big leach field.
No, the problem with the low flow is we can't use that for actual flow. I've already talked this over with the Board of Health. They want a representative flow from historic library use, and so they're gonna talk to me about what the flow that we need to use will be. And given that, maybe the library's going to be coming down the pike at some point with some expansion or maybe some addition, whatever, we're probably in the 500 or 600 gallons per day range, which will dictate the size of the system.
Hey, Rich, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Craig, what's that based on? 500 gallons a day?
Based on, I did it based on, because there's no category in Title V regulations on how to calculate library flow. So when I talked to the health agent, I said, Jim, we've got a library here, and so I did it based on office flow, which is 75 gallons per 1,000 square feet. So we've got 8,500 square feet in the library. We do the numbers. it's somewhere around 500 or 600 gallons a day.
Seems high.
Well, where we settle
We
in
don't
on
have
it,
offices in the library, we have books.
you know, I know, but they have functions there, they have get-together meetings,
You know what the flow out of this building is?
Well, we use 2,000 gallons a day of, our upset limit on water use, well, that's for the whole system.
Excuse me.
I don't know off the top of my head. It's probably half that flow.
What did we base the septic system at Pompo on?
We base that on.
I'm just looking for comparisons here.
Yeah. We base that on office and assembly use for Pompo. So we, you know, the two-part equation, and I'm trying to remember the number now.
But it's a big one.
We were, you know, 1,300 gallons a day, something like that, maybe 1,500 gallons a day.
I guess what I would suggest is when you get ready for town meeting, be prepared for questions like that.
Yeah.
And have a basis for it, because I mean, obviously the size of the system and therefore the cost of the system is completely dictated by that single number. right?
Yeah. I'm kind of at the whim, as you know, of the Board of Health.
Sure.
They say, okay, Craig, you know, we got to design it based on this or that. And I was just pointing out the water use, historically, because I had meter readings on it, it's not a lot of flow, but they're gonna tell me, the Board of Health is gonna say, you know, this is what you need to use for flow. And I'll have it.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you, because I thought you told them, or you said that there isn't a historical basis. There's no like Title V limit that says.
Title V doesn't define libraries, but Jim Bareffi from the Board of Health said he's got several libraries that they just did systems for in other towns, and he's gonna go and look and see what they used, and he'll be relaying that to me, and it looks like he wants to use whatever they use.
Fine,
I
so
know
if
it's
it
gonna-
turns out that your number is the same as theirs, that's something you're gonna wanna be able to present at town meeting, and it's fine.
Yeah, by town meeting, I'll know what the number is.
Who's, are we
who's
getting
Jim?
any kind of Neshoba Board of Health guy?
Okay.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, well, Jim Bareffi is from the Neshoba Board of Health.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, we have the.
And they're.
It's a rotating guy.
Yeah, we have 3 people that come here from the Neshoba Board of Health at the time. And so Jim Bareffi is kind of the head guy over at Neshoba, so he's the one I've been dealing with.
Okay.
But I will do that.
Are we getting any kind of guarantee?
Well, that's what we will get out of this, as opposed to just trying to rehab it. You know, we'll have a licensed installer, we'll have a design, we'll have a licensed installer, and it'll be as-built elevations and all the inspections that the Board of Health does and everything. We'll do everything that's necessary to ensure the system is put in properly. And we do get a guarantee out of it.
Of a certain number of years, or do we know?
I don't know the exact.
Yeah, I mean, typically residential septics, you basically pass your Title V, and if you pass, you're great, but there's no real guarantee, right?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, the alternative is to try to rehab this system, and we would absolutely not get any guarantee from a company that came in and said, okay, we'll jet the lines, and we'll cut the roots out, and then we'll leave, and then you guys are on your own, so.
With the same size tank and the same.
They would basically be saying, we'll take your existing system here, and we'll try to rehab it, we'll try to blow all the lines and make it work, but they're gonna walk away and say, we did what all we could, and you guys are on your own. You know, and we backfill it and keep going. I mean.
What was the cost of that? What would be the cost of that, do you think?
What do you know what we get for cost
It's
of that?
$1,000 to jet the lines and to take video.
And that didn't include cutting out
No
roads
cutting.
or anything else. No, obviously it'd be less than what we're coming before the town for.
So is the 1994 in as bad a shape? Or, I mean, that's the one we're using now, right? Is that the one that you're talking about they rehabbed, the 94 one?
We're
No.
looking at rehabbing.
We're looking at rehabbing it. And we haven't
We're
rehabbed.
looking at abandoning the 94 system, but if the rehab would try to rehab the 94 system. But that's where we had the failure, so. To really do it I mean, you'd have to, even to rehab it, to ensure that you're doing all that you could, you'd probably have to dig up most of it to see what the biomat looks like, or is the stone all plugged up, you know, all these things that you can only see when you dig it up. By the time you dig it up, you can put it in a new system like
So if you're digging up the 74 side to put in the new lines, what would, I mean, how much extra would it be just to clear that old equipment out of there and just lay down like a fresh?
That's basically what we're gonna do. We're gonna remove all the 74 system.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I thought you
Take
said you
that
were
all
laying
out.
next to it or something like
Yeah,
that.
no, I think we're gonna just take out the pipes, get down to the gravel, put in a new bed, and lay new pipes.
So just basically redo the 74 side and use that?
Yeah, we won't go right where the old trenches were. We'll probably go in between them,
Oh,
or
I see.
on a little bit different angle, depending on the length of trenches that we need. But that's where we have more room to move than the 1994 side.
Okay.
I know the 50 is a large number, but that's what, you know, I can only go on what the contractors tell me. It's a prevailing wage job. Steve, you know about prevailing wages, I'm sure. I mean, it adds to the cost. We gotta put bid packages together, put it out for public bid, all that.
I assume 20% reduction in a system like this is not 20% reduction in cost.
Not really, not when you're involving the equipment that has to work on it.
Right, so, I mean, it's in principle, you know, cutting it short, it's only a few dollars that you would save
Yeah.
on a project like this.
Anybody else have any other questions? All right, thanks, Craig.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I think that was the only one you're gonna update us on, is that right?
What's that?
That was the only one you were gonna update us
That's all I
on,
have,
right?
yeah, yep. You probably had enough of me.
No, it's helpful, thank you.
You know what, she probably sent me one.
Mike, you wanna join us? Thanks. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing okay, how you doing?
Do you know everybody?
Just out of curiosity, what's the process? Do we vote on these tonight?
We're gonna, oh, sorry. So we're gonna go, we're gonna try to wrap this up by 8, so we can go listen to the select committee's presentation. They have an opening hearing at 8 to talk about SMOD and some of these other things,
Okay.
but primarily the SMOD thing, and then we're gonna come back up and, or go down, actually,
Okay.
and we'll vote on it.
Okay, good.
Okay? Mike, welcome.
Hi.
Do you know everybody on the committee?
Yeah, Atlee, Peter.
Paul.
Thomas?
Tom's our new associate member. So thanks for joining us. Which one do you want to start with?
Well,
Want to start with the speed limits? Just go right before.
yeah.
Oh, no, let's start with 2, with the Lake Boone, the Lake Boone.
Yeah, I'm on Lake Boone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, we got an order from the Department of Conservation and Recreation, which is the place that inspects dams or is in charge of the dams, and it's the state. We got a certificate of non-compliance and dam safety order, which means basically they're deeming the dam structurally deficient and in poor condition. With that, there's compliance orders and things like that need to be met. There's inspections and investigations that need to be done. That includes core borings and hydraulic analysis of the spillway and all sorts of things like that. So I got a quote from Weston and Sampson to conduct a phase 2 investigation, and then it also includes a follow-up inspection 6 months later. And they will do an inspection 6 months later, and the work has to be completed by August of 2018. So we have about a year to work on it. But what happens is they'll come in and do their investigation, and with their investigation, they're going to give us a price on all the things that need to be fixed and plans and everything else
Right.
on what we should do. From that point, we have to go find out where we're gonna get money to do that. Some of those things that are gonna need to be done include, brush cutting, simpler things that I told him that the highway department could do, like brush cutting, putting more riprap stone on the shoreline, fixing guardrails. There's a few washouts that need to be addressed. So those are all things that we can do, which will save us money on that end.
Right.
The things that we have to worry about are the spillway, which is something beyond anything that we can do ourselves.
Right.
Something that's a contractor's gonna have to do. And it could get pricey, they might have to replace the whole spillway. And that will involve a lot of work, building a coffer dam or something like that. And so, but that remains to be seen as to how much that is. Right now, we're talking about the Phase 2 investigation and a follow-up inspection, and that would be, the price of it is $27,000. They have a, an optional task which they would like to do for us too, and it's an extra $6,000. It's a breach analysis, and if the breach analysis comes back to the point where they can reclassify the dam to lower the hazard rating, then they will do that. And that's what this breach analysis is for. And what that will do is, instead of having to inspect the dam every 5 years, because right now we inspect it every 5 years, we hire an engineer, he comes in, and he does certain things, tests certain things. I don't know exactly what they are.
Okay.
So yeah, this would take care of that, and instead of doing an inspection every 5 years, it would have to be every 10 years. So it would save us money in the long run.
If it
But it would
passes.
cost us $6,000 up front. Yeah, if it passes. So I met the engineer out there actually, and we walked the dam and stuff, and he talked about the breach analysis, and he was looking downstream and stuff, and this company's done a lot of dams. He said they do them all over Massachusetts, and just this year he's got like a dozen of them on his list.
Okay.
And he said that, I don't know if you've seen the report from the Department of Conservation and Recreation. I can give you a copy. But they make it sound like it's really in bad shape, you know what I mean? And it's not, and the engineer wanted to assure me of that, first of all.
Meaning like it's not an imminent danger?
Yes, it's not an imminent danger, like they kind of make it sound like when you read it, use all these
Structurally
big
deficient,
terms,
poor
like you're gonna
conditions.
have to breach the dam and all this other stuff, and when you look at it, you're like, wow, no way, but you go out there and look, and there are things wrong with it, but it's not to the point where it's gonna fall apart.
I know you haven't got the numbers, but any idea of the magnitude of the next step?
It depends on what needs to be done with the spillway. I know that they're probably gonna say that the flash boards that we remove in the fall and put back in the spring, that whole setup is gonna need to be replaced. So that involves concrete. They're gonna have to dam the water off and everything else. I mean, I would estimate it could be up to $100,000. Yeah.
That's significantly less than I was expecting.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, like the actual materials and stuff are probably not a lot. You're talking to probably have to buy a concrete box culvert and pour some forms and pour some concrete and do all that stuff. It's the damming of the water and stuff that's going to be the serious issue there, and the cost. To give you an example, I got a quote from a company. Actually, it was ET&L. To dam the water when we redid the Delaney Street Bridge.
Yeah.
I wanted to get some sheet pilings in the ground and dam the water on one side and have it run through a couple culverts and work on one side and switch it over to the other. It was almost $50,000 just to do that stream. Yeah, and I was like, really? You are right next door. They could literally walk the equipment over here. And I don't know if they just didn't want to do the job or what it was, but so that's why I'm thinking it could be a lot of money.
Did you end up not doing that project?
No, we ended up doing it ourselves. We dammed the water ourselves, and we did the whole project. So.
That's a nice bridge.
Thank you.
And what was the cost differential, like 10?
We did the whole project. We replaced everything, pipes, retaining walls, road, guardrails, and everything for like $70,000.
Oh, you got everything done.
Yeah. And they just wanted to just dam the water for $50,000 and work on it, so it was a good deal.
Okay.
How much would you think this fixing the spillway?
Like I said, I couldn't tell you offhand, Atlee, the big cost is gonna be damming the water. It could be, 50 to 100,000 for the materials and for the equipment and the work,
That's just your finger in the air.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea what they're gonna even say. They could say, yeah, we just need to touch it up and it'll be fine, I don't know.
So does Hudson contribute at all to the dam, or is this a Stow
No,
only owned
it's
property?
it's all Stow, yeah. The town actually owns that piece, so.
Who owns the actual lake itself? I'm fairly new to this.
I don't know.
Who sets the rules? I mean, somebody owns the lake.
I'm not sure who sets the rules. I don't
This
think
is
anybody does.
somebody at town hall, I'm sorry, town meeting every year, until last year, he would ask every year.
That's only because he wasn't here this year.
Right.
I don't think there are any lake issues.
You'll be here for
Well,
this.
yeah, we weren't doing the herbicide this
No,
year.
yeah.
So we don't know who owns the lake?
It's-
We don't want to ask and we don't want to
So
pay
the
to find
official
out.
answer is it's classified as a Massachusetts Great Pond, which means the state owns the lake.
Makes sense.
But the state's not going to contribute.
Heck, no.
No.
No. They're the ones telling us we're gonna fix it.
So it's
Yeah, so
our
We'll
let's-
spend our own money.
How did we get to this point? This is we're on the state inspection schedule?
So we hit
State
that.
came out, inspected it.
Yeah, well, we have to hire this inspector and have it come out, and we have to pay for it.
So here's our 5-year number came
Our
out.
5-year number came up this year, yeah, and they saw the report from last year. This is, the engineer said they probably had a pile of reports, and they finally got to yours in the 5th year, and they read it, and they saw, in 2012, it was rated in poor condition, and so they probably saw that, so they did an inspection themselves, I think, at the end of last year, and that's when they realized it was in poor condition also, so.
So this recent report said poor condition?
Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah.
structurally deficient in it.
Yeah, yeah.
In bold
With
capitals.
bold type, every.
They want to make sure that you know.
So in 2012, it was poor condition, but we didn't do anything?
Right, well, I talked to the engineer about it, and he said, yeah, it needs work and stuff. He said, he didn't seem worried about it, so, we go down there every week and we weed whack and we cut brush when we need to, and we do our own inspection, and it's deteriorating like any other road, and, we didn't notice anything different necessarily.
Is it rated any less for weight? Like,
No, it doesn't.
Like dump truck
It doesn't
tanks
have
over
a.
it?
No, it doesn't have a weight rating. Someone asked me
Okay.
that before.
Is there like a
no,
penalty
no
associated
army
with?
tanks
I was
driven
gonna
over?
say, doesn't he drive army tanks on flatbeds over that thing?
Yeah, I heard that. I never saw it, but I heard it.
Did we
But it
have
doesn't have a weight rating,
So that means there's no issue, right?
There's no rule.
Correct. Yeah, there shouldn't be an issue, and I don't think that's what's contributing it. There's a lot of traffic on that road in general. You know what I mean? And that's just what's doing it in.
How old is
That
it?
in winter and.
Do you remember?
Well, we rehabbed it, the highway department was in really bad shape in like 98, 99, we rehabbed the whole thing, so that was a complete, besides redoing the spillway, which has been there for 100 years. So,
I see.
We redid the whole embankment, and we put a new guardrail up, and we redid the whole road and all that, so. and that-
What about the dam itself? How old is that?
It's over 100 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In 2012, did it say certificate of non-compliance?
It did not say that,
Oh,
no.
that's new,
No.
okay.
The DCR would be the only one that says that. The inspection, or the engineers that did the inspection wouldn't write that on their list. I think that's just a term that they use.
But DCR didn't look at it in 2012?
No, they get our report, and then they look at our report, and then if they have an issue, they go look at it.
So if the engineer looked at it and said that he thought it was passable, we decided not to do anything, would DCR then have a way to force this or penalize this, or?
Yeah, if we don't do it, there's a fine, I'm not sure. It was pricey, like $5,000 a week or something like that.
I think he's asking about the new engineer report, right?
The breach, are you talking about the breach thing?
Well, no, I'm talking about if we have a new engineer come out and look at it and say, yeah, this will probably be good for another, 10 years, you really don't need to do anything to it, but DCR says you need to fix it.
Yeah, we need to go by what they say.
And so if we don't go by what they say, you're saying there's a fine or something
Yep.
involved with it?
Yep.
When would they levy that fine?
After
August 18th.
Yeah, there's certain deadlines to meet, and if we don't meet those. So,
But yet they don't own the lake.
it's a tough call, and you know.
They do.
I think they own the lake, we own the road.
A road can change significantly in 5 years. You know, it was 5 years ago we got that inspection, he might have said, yeah, it's borderline poor condition. And then 5 years goes by, a road can get pretty beat up. Yeah,
Okay.
so.
Any other questions about that? We got a couple other articles.
And what's the timing on, I guess the inspection shouldn't take that long, right? It's not that big.
No, let's see. Phase 2 inspection report is due on October 18th of this year.
This year.
Yeah, so that's what they have to do, but then all the repairs to it have to be done by October 18th of 2018. So we have a year to enact on whatever is wrong with it. He did say, if we're not able to get the funding, he said as long as we keep doing 6-month inspections, he said we're not at bay to fix it immediately, because the state's aware that towns have trouble getting funding fixing these things. So.
Hey, Rich, I did have one other question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
This study that you get, Mike, is it gonna have a cost estimate associated with it in terms of like what repairs need to be done, how much they need?
Yeah, it's gonna be what repairs need to be done, how much they might cost, all that stuff. So, yeah, it's a good thorough project.
So you said it was
I don't know if you
27,000.
want a copy, I can email this to you too, but just a copy of the estimate and proposal if you want to look at it.
That would be super.
Sure.
We'd like an email.
Absolutely.
What's my question? So you said it was 27,000 to get the inspector to come out?
Yeah, 27,000 to do all the
And
inspections.
then you're recommending the $6,000 breach
Breach
analysis?
Yep.
So that's 33,000.
Yep,
And then you got
Bill just wanted to throw in 2,000 in case there was any issues.
Contingency.
Yep. I was gonna just call a couple other engineering companies, see if I could get a lower price, but these people seem pretty reliable. I called a couple other towns too, and they've used them before, and they say they do great work. So,
Okay.
that's that.
Would you do the breach analysis now or after they fix the dam?
They'll do it all at the same time. It has nothing to do with what shape the dam is in. They take a survey of like how much water's there, and downstream they see how much potential there is for danger if all that water goes past the dam, basically. It's like a worst case scenario type thing.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions on Article 3? Article 2, excuse me.
You said if we can't get the funding, we can keep doing 6-month inspections indefinitely?
Yeah, that's what he said. He said some towns are on like their 5th and 6th year of 6 months inspections because they just can't get the funding for as much repairs they have to do to some of their dams, so.
So that's not an option?
But the problem is with a 6 months inspection, every 6 months it's gonna cost you $4,000, because that's about how much
Oh, right.
the regular inspection is, you know, so.
That's not a cost-effective way.
What's that?
That's not a cost-effective way of dealing with it.
No, not really, no.
$8,000 a year versus $250. You know, you can inspect it a long time for $8,000 a year before you
You get a point.
get into it.
But then the prices of the repairs could keep going up too, you know?
Yeah.
It keeps falling apart. You know, those options to make.
I missed the 250 number. I only heard 100. Did we get to?
Well, we were all saying, you know, he said 100, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 100. You can still do
We
it.
can get halfway to 100 in 5 years, 6 years.
Maybe put a toll on
8,000
it.
a year.
And who knows, year 3, maybe you
Right.
discover that inspection says you've got to do it. So you've spent all that money and you still.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, they're like, you gotta do this now, or
Yes.
you're gonna have a serious issue, yeah, good point.
Maybe we could put a toll on it too, that would cost.
Good idea. Keep the Hudson people from going through it.
Charge.
What's that?
Charge per tank.
Charge per
Per tank,
tank.
yeah.
All right, all guys all set?
Anybody else? We get you for the other ones. For
Oh,
speed
this-
limits?
yeah.
Article 4, the speed limits.
Okay.
So where did this,
This is.
what's driving this?
This is, Jesse's kind of more driving this than me.
Okay.
He knows a lot more about it than I do.
Oh, okay.
It's something about the Municipal Modernization Act and changing speed limits in
Thickly settled
thickly
area.
settled areas, which I think is a great idea, the whole thing. It definitely would help as far as, and it fits right in with the whole Complete Streets program and all that stuff.
Okay, so I should have gotten Jesse to come here. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So,
That's okay.
just a question for you in a sense.
Yes.
If we would do the, if they decide to, change the speed limit on a certain area in town for this,
Mhm.
do you have a budget to actually put up appropriate signage, et cetera?
We have a certain amount of money we try to spend every year on signs, whether it be, replacing speed limit signs or street name signs or any of that. We try to spend about $5,000 a year on signs. You can get a lot of signs for that much.
So you are covered in your operating budget for the consequences of these articles?
In other words, what would the cost be?
Well, yeah, I don't know the specifics of that. We'd have to go out and figure out where all the thickly settled districts are and all that. And I don't think that would be something that would happen overnight.
But is this something that your highway could do? You would need an update?
Yeah, it's something,
Probably.
the Complete Streets program is gonna get a consultant to go over all the specific areas anyway. It's not necessarily for this portion, the Municipal Modernization Act, but, so.
What about this, any other questions on Article 4?
Would the,
Speeding ticket.
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
The thickly settled areas, are they already determined, or would we have to decide what they were?
There's criteria that determines those. I don't remember what it was specifically is. The houses, I think, have to be less than 150 or 100 feet apart or
For
something like
town
that.
meeting?
For a certain amount, for like a quarter of a mile
For
distance.
town meeting, it might be helpful if you said, for example, this street and that street would
Sure.
qualify?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got a question. I live on Hudson Road.
Mhm.
There isn't one single car any day of the week that's observing the speed limit on my road.
Mhm.
And I would dare
Including
say-
yours?
Mine either. But, and I also came up Great Road earlier today, and I noticed there's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. I was doing 40 or 45, as were all the other cars along with me.
Yep.
I just wonder, going from 25 to 20 or from 35 to 25, who's going to enforce this? It's
Yeah.
not enforced out on any of these roads today.
Yeah, no,
It's enforceable.
it's a police thing.
It's not enforced here, I can
Sounds
tell
like
you
it's been
that.
expensive for you. Getting some tickets.
It gets enforced if you call enough.
Yeah.
We definitely have seen that on
These
both
limits,
roads.
if you go to a 20 hour.
You're saying it's not gonna make a difference whether you lower it 5 miles an hour?
I don't think so. I just don't.
I tend to agree with that. It'll keep maybe people a few miles an hour slower because most people don't want to get caught speeding, so they're not going to go 10 miles over the speed limit. But yeah, I can't see it making much of a difference, especially with the traffic nowadays. We did a speed survey on Hudson Road like 17 or 18 years ago, and it was determined that those speeds on that road, the speed limits anyways, weren't too fast. But you're right, everybody just tends to.
Do we have any idea, of compliance? What percentage of automobiles comply with the speed limit?
I think it's 15%.
You're probably right. Okay, good.
You have had your sign on Hudson Road, right? The
Oh, yeah.
sign that measures.
Yeah, we've had them on a lot of roads.
By the way, that one right before that turn
On
on Hudson,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
working. The one that does the speed limit testing.
It's not on Hudson.
On
What
Route
is
60,
that?
it's on Route 62 right
Yeah.
now.
Route 62,
I just went by
yeah.
it. It's not
Coming
working.
towards the center?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's
No,
a
that
piece
one's
of brush
working,
blocking it
going the
too.
other way.
So, yeah, they might be dead by now too, they've been out there for a couple weeks. I'll check it out.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I know you have a lot of stuff on your plate.
Thanks.
Do you know, well, before you go, actually, do you know anything about the safety zones? Or these are other,
I'm not sure exactly what that's about.
okay. This is all questions for Jesse.
Yes.
All right, I think that was it.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep, have a great night.
Appreciate it.
So I can talk a little bit about the Article 1.
Sure.
If you want. I handed this thing out.
Yep.
I went to the SMOT meeting last week,
Thank you.
so I can just give you a little bit of
Yeah,
a
please.
preview. This is a picture of the lots. There's on the right, there's a 1.5 acre that's lot A, and then there's a house, and then on the left, that other lot is Lot C. A and C, those are the two lots. The two lots on either side of that house. Those are 1.5 acres, so they're buildable lots, and they have been perked.
So this is C right directly where it says Old Bolton.
Yeah,
Right above that.
that's C, yep.
These two.
That's C and that's A. Those buildings on there is something that this guy, Leonardi, put in. Those are buildings he's proposing, but they're confusing to me, so I'm not gonna talk about that. But this is,
I'm sorry. What's on the far right here? Is
that's
that-
somebody's house.
That's an.
That's an existing house, yeah.
You go.
That one in the middle is for sale, right?
Yeah, that's a
Or
house
it
that's
is
for sale, yeah. That's got a house on it's for sale.
So they want to sell both the ones on the.
Yeah, A and C are the ones that we're gonna be talking about tonight. This open space parcel right here is not 1.5 acres, so there's still questions about what's gonna happen to that.
Lot,
It's
the
not
one
a-
further to the right?
Yeah, right here, that's not 1.5 acres.
But the ones below there, those are
Those
additional
are existing
houses?
homes, yeah. So
Okay.
it's just the two A and C.
Hey, we just started
Right
talking about
on
your
time,
article.
Mike.
Would you like to chat for 5 minutes?
Oh, there you are.
I've almost exactly 5 minutes.
Okay.
Do you want to come up to the table?
Sure. Hi, everybody.
Thanks for making it. Do you know everybody on the team?
I think so. Hi.
Lee.
Hi.
This is Tom's our new
Oh,
associate.
hi. It's me.
He's the head of the Stow Municipal
How's it?
Affordable Housing Trust.
The Smarties.
Exactly. So we were just started talking about, I think is this his presentation?
It's from,
Part of it.
yeah, and it's not his presentation.
These dollars, these numbers are all messed up.
Okay.
So I have it on my phone.
Do you want to give us the real numbers then?
Well, the cost of acquisition is $410,000. And essentially, we're going forward, we would go forward with, we have to buy both parcels because that's the purchase and sale. So if we're going to buy it, we have to buy both.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we have to develop both of them, but it means we have to buy them and one could be sold on the market. Or both could be sold on the market if we decide not to go forward in the future. But so in order for affordable housing to be affordable for the town, density is the key. So in these parcels, we would have, for us to get to the average subsidy, the state has an average subsidy per unit of about $150,000. In order to do that, we would need to build 4 units on each parcel.
Total of 8.
Total of 8, right. So, and at that, it's about $152,000 per unit subsidy, meaning the subsidy being the difference between what it costs you to build it and what are you going to get back for selling, right? And that difference is the subsidy, and then if you divide that by the number of units, it's 152,000. So, so that density is a higher density than people are accustomed to in town. It's 4 units in an acre and a half. It can be done. I mean, it's going to be done safely. We'd have all the usual issues with, Board of Health and setbacks and things like that. But it would be a comprehensive permit, so some of the things would be relaxed, but not the Board of Health things for like septic and water and those types of things. But, so the question ends up being and the reason that we've recommended in this case to not use CPC funds right up front, but to borrow, is because if CPC funds are used to buy something for affordable housing, if we decided not to do anything, we couldn't go through with it, or it wasn't cost effective, or for whatever reason, it would need to be sold for affordable housing only. And if we can't do affordable housing on it, nobody's going to be doing it.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense to use the CPC money up front to do that. It makes more money to borrow, to appropriate through borrowing and buy that property. And then we have no strings municipally about how we could dispose of the property if we decide, or we, like I say, we could develop one and sell the other. There's also a question about, there's actually 4 parcels there. There's one here that says open space parcel that the owner would like to have remain in chapter, but there's a question about whether that's possible. So that may actually also have to be, if it's going to be withdrawn from the program, may have to be offered to the town. So so it could be possible that we buy these 2 parcels, sell one of them, and then use the proceeds from that to buy the other one. So that would be contiguous.
Talking about the open space?
Right, that open space that was also in chapter.
Hey, Mike, can I stop you right there?
Sure.
They don't have a purchase and sale on that open space.
Absolutely. So the way.
That's a totally different timeline.
Totally different timeline. So right, exactly. So a totally different timeline, and there's a different process for withdrawing a parcel without an active purchase and sale. And that's an appraisal process where the homeowner would have it appraised. If the town didn't like the appraisal, the town could have a separate appraisal, and there's negotiation that goes on between those two. But you can't avoid, if you're removing it from Chapter 61, you have to, by whatever means, it has to be offered to the town for right of first, for that option. Right? Otherwise, everybody would just take it out, pay the taxes back, and then dispose of the land the way they wanted to.
Right.
So.
And what's the criteria for that it wouldn't qualify for chapter?
It's less than 5 acres. It needs to be, the remaining piece would be, it's only 1.4 acres.
So that hasn't been definitive?
That hasn't been definitive, and it's not in front of the town right now, so it's not being addressed, but looking forward, that's a possibility, but, So, the town hasn't had an enormous appetite for borrowing money in the first place. Borrowing land, buying land at market rate, even less so, and for affordable housing, I imagine there's not a whole lot of people waiting to say, hey, yeah, that's a great idea. However, if we do build at that density, it actually is cost effective, and 8 units gets us 2/3 of the way to what we would need for safe harbor. We have 4 units coming very soon at Regency, and that 12 units together would give us a year of safe harbor. So. That's kind of laid out the way. I mean, that's the very short version.
How did you get to 12? I'm sorry. How'd you get to 12 units?
Well, 8 here. Plus
8 here plus the 4 that are Regency.
Oh, 4 at Regency.
4 at Regency.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pete. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you're talking about roughly $1 million subsidy, you call it.
Right.
That's not the construction cost, so we actually would have to lay out significantly more than that.
Potentially, those were when, if we actually went forward to do this, then that's when we would ask for CPC funds for the construction. And then potentially, we haven't worked out all the details yet because there's a lot of things that go on here, but, it's a short time frame. But potentially, we could use the proceeds of selling those houses. We can't use CPC money to pay back the loans, but we could potentially use the money that when those houses are sold, that money could go back to the land acquisition costs could be part of the total budget, and so the town could use, or that money could be paid back to the town, which could be used to borrow it back. Not really clear on exactly how that would work yet. We haven't worked out all those details.
But the actual number is gonna be a lot more than $1 million at some point.
Yes.
You know, I'm gonna
Sure.
display my ignorance. These units, how are they taxed? Just,
They're taxed at residents, but because their value is less than the market, they'd be rated, but at the same, their valuation would be lower. The rate would be the same, the valuation would be lower.
Same rate as you, Paul. Same rate as you.
yeah. Same rate, but, yeah, rate, yes.
Different assessment.
I'm just pulling up the numbers here so I can make
That's
sure. That
okay.
I'm doing it from memory. I want to make sure that.
So other than those four that are in development, is there any other parcels of land that are currently waiting development for affordable housing?
Well,
That's how you answer that.
the Pine Point one is in process. There's a comprehensive permit is going to be, that'll be 2 units proposed there. There are, the other major one is the plantation, what's known as Plantation 2, for the supportive living, which is essentially affordable assisted living for folks who, presumably many of the folks who currently live at Plantation, when they need more support, like assisted living, that would be, that's 30 plus units, 37 units, I think.
We got about 2 minutes, but
Yes.
one more question. Do we have any idea of the number of students or children residing in affordable housing in town? In other words, if we build eight more units, how many kids are we likely to get into the school system?
I think that's knowable, but I'm not certain it's public information. I mean, you can probably, if somebody was interested, they could figure that out, but it's like singling out people who are in affordable houses for what the demographics are in those specific, as a whole, it's okay. I think if you went to specifically, it's okay, you're living in an affordable house, you're living in affordable, how many kids you got? That is, I think there's some privacy issues that we have to dance around. Does that make sense?
But you're planning 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms?
These are 4 2-bedroom units on each parcel.
4 2-bedroom?
Oh, 4 2-bedroom.
Yeah.
They're not gonna have a whole lot of kids there.
It's possible,
Yeah.
people who live in affordable housing come in all flavors, and it's people who, that could be a single parent with 2 kids, or it could be 2 grown adults, it could be.
If it's a regular family, you're only gonna get maybe 1 or 2 kids in a 2-bedroom with adults.
Right. So, and that's not really.
15.
Right, and the income limits are a little different. There's some assumptions made about 2 bedrooms, and that's a 3 or 4 person, yes, family unit, but if there's only 2 people there, the number that we would get back is somewhat less, and so, you look at, so.
Before we go, can I ask you
Sure.
a quick question here? There are 3 homeowners that bought these 2 lots. Have you connected with them?
We have with, at our last SMOT meeting, there were a number of abutters and people who are interested at the last meeting. Again, we're on we normally are on 120 days because of some reporting things. We're on a 90-day on this one, so we're really been in an enormous rush. So there was some issues that looked like it was incorrect. The notice given was incorrect, but it turned out it was correct, so we had to backdate it. So we lost 30 days. So we're doing this all in a 90 day instead of 120 days, which is bad enough. So essentially, at this point, what we're doing is my take on this is that a lot of the details about what this, we are going to put a straw downstairs, we are going to put a straw man up there, and this is what we're going to do for the numbers perspective. But once the town owns the land, we are going to have a process about sitting down and saying, okay, well, what makes sense for the land to go here? And we're throwing this up we're proposing 4 2-bedroom units. If the town decides, well, that's a level of density we're not comfortable with, we'd like to put fewer units there, and it's like, okay, but it's going to cost more per unit. And that's a decision that we can, we have decided as a town from surveys and other things we've done that people prefer small infill developments to large developments. So from that perspective, those small infill developments are by nature just more expensive. That's the way it is. I mean, it costs more. You can't spread it out. A lot of the other, the soft costs and the other things are concentrated on a smaller number of units. So they're just more expensive. So if we wanted to put 100 units somewhere, 100 units of rental property, we would have all these things dealt with, and then we'd.
So I guess I go back to what I asked.
Yep.
Did the 3 homeowners that actually physically their property are abutting these 2 lots, did they have 10 years not meeting?
I think at least 2 of them did, but they didn't. There were a number of people there who didn't identify themselves. They were aware of the meeting.
Is Matt considering sending those 3 individuals a letter about your plans before the town meeting?
Certainly before town meeting. If we don't, we've been really focused on getting ready for tonight's meeting and trying to get all those things in place. There is no proposal for us to discuss. As you remember how the process was, there is no proposal. We're throwing up a straw man saying, well, this is what it would look like.
Yeah.
But the point is that we're not saying we're going to go do this project. The idea is that it makes sense financially to buy these properties and then have a process that goes on in town deciding what the hell to do with them, right? I mean, they're invited like anyone else is, and we put things in the paper and stuff like that. Please come to our meetings, but
Who knows, it could be a park.
it could be. I need to go downstairs. Sorry. Okay, thank you for being here.
Thanks for coming. So, before we all get up, so, this ends the opening hearing for, but we're not adjourning our meeting. We're gonna meet after the SMART presentation to do our recommendations, everything, and it's not gonna be recorded. Thank you.